Hello, welcome to another one of my data structures, data modeling, data architecture videos. Uh, I posted in a previous video talking about how to maintain and manage a reporting hierarchy, what they were, how to deal with them. So this is sort of an extension of that. So please check out that video if you have any questions about a standard reporting hierarchy. That is also sort of an extension or a side discussion from any type of hierarchical data and how you can process and manage hierarchical data. Those are also found in some of my Alteryx videos, so please check those out as well. So we're going to take a little time today and talk about the ragged hierarchy and why this structure is a little bit harder to deal with. And they exist a lot out there in the real world. The real world has lots of messy data in case you weren't aware of it. And it's up to you as a data analyst, data architect, reporting person, whatever your job is that's dealing with data, you've got to solve these minor problems to make reporting easier for yourself and for anybody else that's coming along. So then we talked about this hierarchy, which is a sales hierarchy, and it's given to us as a spreadsheet. So let's talk about two different ways this can be ragged and what a ragged hierarchy is. Well, ragged hierarchy is, as it might think, something that is not nice and crisp and clean and square. So in this first hierarchy, what we have is that a few of the offices, so this is the previous hierarchy, a few of the offices, New York City in this example, they also have branches that are within the city that need to be dealt with from a reporting standpoint. So for New York City, we have the Bronx and Manhattan. So this is a problem because everybody would roll up to the office, but you have some of these that you want to report on at the branch level. And if you're doing a branch report, you would only see this data. The second ragged hierarchy that we can deal with is a middle part of the hierarchy being optional. So for example, the same hierarchy we had before where we had region, area, state, and office, we now have a district. New York is too big of a state to have just a single state with offices. We also wanted to be able to roll them up by district. So in New York, we have New York City and North New York as districts within the state, and the offices then report to the districts in these cases, or continually report to the state and these others. So how do you deal with these ragged hierarchies because they're in fact out there? Well, the simplest way to deal with them, but it doesn't always match what you need to do from a reporting standpoint, as well as sometimes you lose information that might be important to you, and that is you simply fill in the holes with the missing level. So in the right-sided ragged hierarchy, you go ahead and have your office and your branch being the same thing. So you plug in this missing data to give it a false level. Not always what you might want, but it gets the job done. And the same thing applies in the middle. So you can either feed it down or feed it up, as the saying goes. So in this case, we fed it down, which is since we don't have a district within Maine, the state becomes the district. There's only one. And again, some of the same rules apply. So what we want to talk about today, as in seeing that, is have you seen the overall problem statement? We've talked about having a ragged hierarchy and what do we do with it? It fits within hierarchy. So we want to make sure that what you need to undertake when you do this is to understand what your reporting requirements are. How does the business want to see this data when that ragged hierarchy exists? Given whatever solution you have, how you're going to maintain that data, and what impact does it have on relational data structures and dimensional data structures. So I leave the reporting requirements to you. You simply have to ask the right questions and get the right examples. Once you realize what you want to do by understanding the relational data structures, dimensional data structures, how is that data going to be maintained? And again, see the previous video about reporting hierarchies to see where we go from each of those. But from a ragged hierarchy standpoint, if you fill in the data, it has the least impact or in your data model, whichever you happen to choose. So for example, if this is the data model we used for our hierarchy, and we have the data, a ragged hierarchy where we fill in the data, all that we need to do is to put a branch into this. And so we have the branch somewhere, hopefully. What do we do with the branch? Oh, sales branch. Funny what I can forget in the last 5 minutes. Anyway, so here we have these, keep going down. Where'd the sales branch go? Sales region, sales hierarchy, sales branch. There it is. Let's go ahead and move this. There's sales branch. Move that to our data model, and you see we simply add it to the end. And then we can do the same thing here, that if we've added something between the state and the office, we simply insert that relationship in here and it goes down. The same thing applies if we're going to be dealing with the sales hierarchy and we fill the middle in. We can go ahead and simply add the column to the reporting flat table. Or if we're actually going to create a little bit better structure, we can add an object for the sales branch and then relate it here as well. Now, if we look back at the sales hierarchy from a relational standpoint, if you don't have the representation of the right-sided ragged hierarchy, you simply make this an optional value for the sales branch. In other words, this data does or doesn't exist. Now, if the data does not exist for the sales branch, you have to deal with that from a reporting standpoint. So you have to be careful with just simply leaving this out. If you try to plug it in over here, in the example where we had the sales district, it becomes a lot messier. Because if you try to stick it in over here's relationship from the state and skip it and not leave it there, well, what do you do with this relationship? Because the relationship between the state and the sales office really doesn't exist. And you won't have a relationship between the sales district and sales office if there's no record here in the middle. So from a relational standpoint, that ragged hierarchy with a missing district is a much more difficult problem to solve. And this is actually for both ragged hierarchies. If I'm going to do something where I'm not replacing data in the middle of it all, this is where this type of structure that we talked about before, not the straight reporting sales hierarchy dimension, but simply the one where we have created the bridge table going between the hierarchy and the elements within the hierarchy, because the relationship will only exist for those relevant attributes. So in the case where we've left the right hand part of it out, which is ragged 1, just a reminder, so if we were going to use this in the dimensional model, and we don't have right, well, we simply do not have that element as part of the grouping or the bridge table relationship here. In the case where the hierarchy is ragged in the middle, the same thing would happen, that for these that don't have a district, there would simply not be a district element within the bridge table group of tables. So from that standpoint, if I'm dealing with ragged hierarchies and I don't just want to duplicate what's in the middle and that existence of the middle, something being null inside of that would cause me reporting issues, and actually duplicating the data does not meet a reporting requirement because you'll get extraneous rows in some of the rollup tables. You can then go ahead and use the relational bridge dimensional model to satisfy your more discrete reporting. So that's the pro of it all. The con of it all is this is probably the hardest structure to maintain. But once you develop your Alteryx workflow to maintain that data, job is done. Reporting is clean, simple, straightforward. And anytime you have a new set of data coming in, you simply plug it into your Alteryx workflow and you don't have to deal with it again. So as a quick wrap up of this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can see new videos as I generate them. Please comment, let me know if you like this, how it helped, if there's something else you need me to talk about. But again, ranked hierarchies are more complex than a normal hierarchy. But if you understand the options, you understand your data, and you understand your reporting needs, you can make a good choice that is easy for you to maintain and easy for your reports to be generated. So for those of you that have ranked hierarchies, I hope this helps you understand what you can do. So you have a great day and enjoy your data analysis.